Hello everybody, my name is Mike Lindeman, and the project you're about to see is Avalanche Prediction in Turnagain Pass by Stan Curry and myself. This project was a part of AERO 658 with Dr. Hatfield, and so we decided to go to Turnagain Pass and map out some avalanche terrain with our drones and be able to create a three-dimensional map showing where the terrain angles were most likely to cause an avalanche. So a little bit of history. Turnagain Pass is about an hour and a half south of Anchorage on the Seward Highway. There's a parking lot up at the top of the pass that you can pull into and unload. After unloading at the parking lot, it's about a 10 to 15 minute snowmobile ride or snow machine ride up to the area that we decided to survey. So this is Stan and I on the day that we undertook our mission. This was April 20th, 2023. This is us in the parking lot with our gear all loaded up. You can see my DJI Inspire on the back of Stan's snowmobile, and Stan's Skydio 2 was in his backpack. Okay, so this is the target area that we chose to survey. This area is known as Widowmaker at Turnagain Pass. The reason why it's known as Widowmaker is because there's a trough, if you look carefully, that tends to get filled full of snow and avalanche debris when the slope above it slides. Okay, so after we had made it up to the top of Turnagain Pass where we were going to do our surveying, we split up and Stan went down into the bottom of Main Bowl with his Skydio 2 Plus. He was going to survey the bottom half of the mountain from down there, and then I would be surveying the top half of the mountain from the ridge line with my DJI Inspire. So in this picture you can see Stan down in Main Bowl, and then in this picture here you can see me up on the ridge flying my DJI Inspire. And so here you have the product of all of this imaging. Basically it's a three-dimensional map of that section of Main Bowl. And it may not look like it here, but this is in extremely high resolution. So there's about 123 acres here, or about half a square kilometer, and the resolution is about 2.3 inches per pixel. So you can zoom way in on this and it's like ultra high resolution. So from this map, we then used ArcGIS Pro to create an angle map. So this angle map, anything in red is in the bad, quote-unquote, angle zone of 35 to 45 degrees. That angle zone is the most likely angles for avalanches to start from. Anything in yellow is 10 degrees outside of that zone, so either plus or minus 10 degrees, because you start to get less likely for avalanches to occur outside of that zone. And then anything in green is beyond that 10 degree buffer either side of the quote-unquote bad angle zone. But, as they always say, picture is worth 1,000 words, but a video has to be worth 1,000,000. So, here's an animation. So, the cool thing about this animation is that you can see the red area is where it would be most likely to slide. And if you guys were able to identify the trough that I was talking about earlier, you'll see that that trough is directly below this massive red portion of the slope. So from here we can say that our empirical evidence, which we see avalanches on this slope all the time, so our empirical evidence does actually match up with the evidence that we have acquired using the drones, which is a really cool thing to see. So where do we see this project going from here? Well, we would really like to map all of Turnagain Pass. And that is to say, we want to create a high-resolution, three-dimensional map of all of Turnagain Pass. We think that this map could be extremely useful and beneficial in the protection of people from avalanches in this terrain. So this map could be used to ensure that people stay out of the zones that are most likely to cause avalanches. Also, our map could be combined with the Chugach National Forest Avalanche Information Center's archived avalanche records. So they have thousands of records on there from Turnagain Pass dating back all the way to 2005. So using their archive, which each record has exactly where the avalanche occurred, what the weather conditions were like, what the snow conditions were like, we can feed all of that data into an AI model. And from there, that AI model can generate an avalanche prediction model for Turnagain Pass. That AI model would then be able to continuously, every day throughout the winter, look at what the weather is, what the weather has been, and then come up with a perceived avalanche forecast, much like the human forecasters do at the Chugach National Forest Avalanche Information Center currently. Not to say that the model would ever supplant the human forecasters, because you have to have that human element. But it could be used as a tool to aid the human forecasters and to quantify results. Another thing that might be interesting to do with this data is that the quote-unquote bad angle of 35 to 45 degrees, which is where colloquially it's known as like where the angle that avalanches start from. That angle has been established in the lower 48, but has never been established in Alaska. And our snow in Alaska is much different than it is in the lower 48, say Colorado or Utah or Wyoming and those sort of areas. So I think that it would be really interesting to take the historical records from the Chugach National Forest Avalanche Information Center and see with our model, because we would be able to look at exactly where each avalanche propagated from, and with our three-dimensional model, you could say, okay, actually we see avalanches propagate more at between 40 and 50 degrees, or whatever, one of those angles. So yeah, I think this has been a really interesting project, and I think that there's a lot of potential here for moving forward and more data, as well as a really beneficial thing for the public at large. Thank you for your time.